All right, buckle up. This car has a spoiler. Okay, man, holy crap. Just pulling out of the theater now. I gotta go to the bathroom. That was a long movie. And loved it. I think the only way I'm gonna be able to even get through half of the thoughts that I would probably want to talk about is to just go through the characters rather than try to go back in my mind chronologically through the events of the movie. Oh my gosh, dude. That guy, if I wouldn't have moved left, was like totally gonna let me run over him. What the crap was he thinking? Walking out in the middle of the street. Anyway, and I know that like when I'm done recording, because this is gonna be much longer than the usual spoiler car, which by the way, this is normally something that I do for the patrons at patreon.com/spiritblade productions. It's going to be entering the $5 tier in June, but I've been previewing it for all patrons lately, and I'm putting this up for Christian Geek Central YouTube channel viewers so you guys can kind of get a taste of what this is. But normally I'll record this fresh out of the movies that I review on the drive home and just spit out all the spoilery thoughts that I would never share in the reviews themselves. So, man, this one's gonna be, I'm sure, longer than the review. Actually, I'll probably finish this one parked in my garage for a while. Okay, so, I'm not gonna be able to cover it all. I'm sure I'll forget a bunch of stuff. Okay, Captain America, let's talk about him. Wow, what a beautiful ending for his character. In general, this movie made me want to go. It added substance to movies that didn't have as much substance because of how they treated these characters and their histories and implied connections and between characters and love and feelings between characters, bonds between characters that I'm willing to believe, because maybe the other movies aren't really fresh in my mind, and but which tend to not treat bonds and relationships as intricately as this movie does. And anyway, it really, this makes me want to go back. It's kind of like reading Crisis on Infinite Earths, which in itself is not a great story, and I'm not saying that of this necessarily, but seeing all these characters together and referencing the histories that they have makes me want to invest in the histories again. Anyway. So, yeah, man, he gets to have that retirement. He gets to have the whole life. He gets the whole life that he missed. He gets that. Oh, man, how satisfying that was. I was welling up when he was dancing with Agent Carter. Is it Amanda Carter? I can't remember if that's her first name or not. Just, what a beautiful moment for him to, I thought, as many probably did, that he was going to have the sacrificial hero's death. I'm so glad that he got a second chance at a whole life, a whole beautiful life, because of all the characters. He's the one with he's the one that kind of represents traditional values, and even though he had a progressive moment with the gay guy in the not Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever the counseling group was that he was a part of, But anyway, he's the one that you associate with traditional family and the guy that really wants to settle down and have that life of being a husband, a father. He got to dance. The last scene was the dance, that they said they were going to have at the end of Captain America, that he never got to have with her. Oh, it was wonderful. Now, of course, in the sci-fi concept that they've set up, that's not the Agent Carter that he loved, And I thought to myself, well, just, it's for the sake of the dramatic moment, just let yourself enjoy this, Pater, because he probably went to a version of the timeline where she also lost her Steve Rogers and is not going to get him back. And so that's kind of how I imagine that in my mind, is close enough, even though, it's not the same Steve Rogers for her, it's not the same Amanda Carter for him. That's okay. Yeah, beautiful ending and a great exit, I think, for Chris Evans' Captain America. I didn't like the handoff to Sam Wilson. I don't think anybody other than Steve Rogers should be Captain America. Honestly, I think it's going to be feel forced, and audiences will ultimately want Steve Rogers back, just like they do every time in the comics. You know, the other people have worn the suit in the comics, and audiences ultimately are going to want it's not the suit, it's the man underneath, Steve Rogers, you know, and just his heroic character is what makes him Captain America. Sam Wilson, I'm sure he's a great guy. We barely know anything about him. Also, you know, the kind of like the icing on the cake that he's missing is the super soldier formula. He's just a good soldier and a pilot, but that's all he's got going for him. So I don't imagine that they're going to try to do a Captain America movie with the Sam Wilson character. I can see him being in a future Avengers movie or somebody else's movie, but come on, really? I think they're going to, honestly, before they try to do another solo Captain America movie, unless they're planning on going, whoops, never mind, we're actually giving it to Bucky Barnes, I don't think we're going to see another Captain America movie until they reboot the franchise and give us Steve Rogers again, you know. All right, let's move on. Iron Man. It makes sense that they would kill him, and it was a good death. You know, with all the way that Marvel movies have been up to this point, I kept like battling in my mind a little bit when some of these deaths occurred. I was like, ugh, can I really appreciate this moment right now? Because they could easily reverse this, and I could see them reversing it, because dang it, Marvel does not have a history of letting you sit in weighty emotions. And the Russo brothers have been a different story though, and so I allowed myself. It's just like, you know what? Either way, it doesn't. Even if they reverse deaths, as long as they don't do it too quickly or make a joke too quickly after a character death, you know, you can still sit in the emotion of the characters reacting to their death. And gosh, I thought that the big sacrifice of Tony at the end was going to be the realization that they wouldn't be able to bring people back who had been snapped out by Thanos. They're actually going to have to turn back the clock, in which case he would have to lose his daughter, who would, you know, her existence would be erased. I thought that was going to be the tragic choice he was going to have to face. Of all the characters in the core, like, lineup of the Marvel Universe, those original core Avengers, Tony Stark's Iron Man is the one that could continue. He could be a farty old man and still be Iron Man, because it's the suit and it's in his mind and his personality. It's got nothing to do with his youthfulness, his vigor, you know. In fact, they could lean more into his physical weakness like they did early in the franchise as he gets older, you know. So, but this is Hollywood, this is American pop culture. We want people that are young and sexy, you know, and so you can't have senior citizen superheroes. We just don't think old people are cool or worth paying any attention to, and so that's the sad state of affairs that we're in, you know. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer. But it was a good passing. It was a good way to say goodbye to that character. I liked that they had a shot with Happy Hogan with his daughter at the end, so that you could at least believe that she's going to have a father figure in her life, you know. Just some great emotional beats and storytelling, you know, going on here. So yeah, I loved that they got Pepper Potts in an Iron Man suit, you know, for a lot of the big action at the end. It was this movie was just really great at paying off, you know, letting all these characters that you've grown to love over the years have a chance to shine at the end, especially the ones that are kind of on the way out. You know, I don't think we're going to see Pepper Potts, if they try to continue the Iron Man legacy in some way through another character that does the iron suit shtick. I don't think they will. I think Iron Man is gone until we get a reboot. I think that you could have something with War Machine, but no, I think the Iron Man franchise is done, you know. And so it was a good way to say goodbye, you know. Now, just in general, before I move to another character, I'm really interested to see what Marvel is going to do with their franchises as a whole, because, you know, they don't have, that I can think of, any of their core, most popular characters from a publishing standpoint that are really going to be probably focused on going forward. This is the problem with translating these things to screen, and especially, you know, movies take a long time to make, so you can only tell so many stories while these actors are aging and getting older, and there is a clock in Hollywood on your sexiness, your sex appeal, your youth, and all that stuff. And that means that these characters are not allowed to really, truly age. And so they have to be phased out. That's a really unfortunate thing. I just turned 41, but I would have told you this when I was, you know, in my late 20s and early 30s. I would love to see older superheroes continue, you know. I would love to see a Justice Society movie. That would, you know, old Justice Society. Anyway, it would be really cool to see these characters grow old, but if you're not sexy, you're not going to sell. That's the sad reality that we're in. So anyway, they're going to be, I can see some of these characters being able to carry the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a while. I think Doctor Strange could for a while, and he's one that could age some, definitely. He's another one of the characters in this MCU that it's okay if they get a little older. I think Spider-Man could work for a while, because certainly adult Spider-Man has worked in the comics for years, you know, 20-something or whatever. And so if they can get the rights and the negotiation, if all the lawyery stuff can get worked out, then I can see Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, kind of being the new centerpiece, the Iron Man of the MCU for another 10 years. So, you know, they could make this work. But man, losing both Captain America and Iron Man, that's a significant blow to the future of the MCU in terms of the having core, recognizable, popular, from a publishing standpoint, characters as the core of your universe. Having those missing, yikes. So we'll see. We'll see how that all pans out. I think that more likely we'll see an MCU that kind of hangs on for another 5 years. And I think that even if Spider-Man is able to kind of be a successful core, I think without equally viable, popular characters to accompany him as part of that core, I can see them easily, the MCU petering out over the course of the next 5 to 6 years, and then going quiet for 3 years maybe, and then another reboot, you know. Which, hey, that's still gonna be in total a really great run, but I don't think that they have as much future ahead of them as potentially the DC Universe does at this point. I don't know. There's a lot of big ifs there with Henry Cavill and what they do with Batman. Yeah. Anyway, I won't get into the DC Universe right now. What else? Next character, I guess we'll move on. So that was Iron Man, Captain America. Okay, let's talk about Thor. I don't think they know what to do with Thor. I really don't. I think they've been floundering to figure out, how do we make this character something that audiences will like? And I think that the way to do that, with even as little as I know about Thor as a character in the comics, I don't know if he's really celebrated and well-loved in the comics. He's really well-known. He's a bit like Aquaman in that regard. He doesn't get, you know, stepped on and made fun of like Aquaman does. But I don't know that he's like this character that people really love and will buy his book because they love him by himself. Let's see, let me close my garage here. So, you know, they've if you look at what they've done with that character over time, he started out one way as this kind of like almost Elizabethan kind of thing he was they could have done the man out of time thing with Thor over the course of his franchise. And speaking of Captain America, I wish they would have done more man out of time stuff with him, but they didn't. They clearly moved him along, made him kind of progressive as displayed in that the counseling session scene, you know. I really think that over the course of the Captain America franchise, they did not play up the man out of time stuff as much as I would have liked. And man out of culture is what they could have done with Thor to make him interesting and funny. And they increasingly made him more American feeling. I mean, still with a British accent or whatever, you know, but just his style of humor is very like 21st century 20-something style humor, you know. And they've made him this kind of like ridiculous character in a sense. And they took that to another level by making him Potbelly Thor in this one. And I will give them kudos for not giving him his abs back for the entire movie. Like, I thought at some point he was going to get a Asgardian lightning bolt that was going to give him his physique back, you know, so he could have, at least in the final battle, you know, not lose the pot belly. But he stayed Potbelly Thor all the way to the last moment. And I loved the moment, the cathartic moment they had where he got to see his mom again. That was really nice. You know, I think between Infinity War and Endgame here, they had some nice moments where he was funny in emotional moments at the same time. Before I came to see this movie, I finished up watching Infinity War with the director's cut, and the Russos talked about how they liked humor that really played against or in the midst of drama, you know, and they were doing that with Chris Hemsworth, and I would have liked that a lot if he would, because, you know, yeah, I won't get into what he did in Infinity War. I want to keep talking about this movie, but they played up, you know, he would have tears in his eyes while making a joke, instead of the Ragnarok version of Thor, which was making jokes as if kind of like he didn't care about, as if the stakes weren't as high as they were, you know. And in this movie, he was affected by the stakes. He was affected by his mistakes and the tragedy of his past, and he would make jokes in the midst of that, but still with tears in his eyes. And it got a little chuckle out of me, but at the same time, I was kind of welling up too. Because it didn't sacrifice drama to make the joke, and it made sense as a character because it was a defense mechanism. His humor was a defense mechanism. And so when Thor is using bravado as a defense mechanism, and you can see that in the performance, that's when it really works for me, you know. And too often, it's not clear in the Thor movies when he's being funny that he's using humor as a defense mechanism. It just seems like he doesn't care and he's not being affected by the stakes around him, you know. And so there's a way that you can do humor and not sacrifice stakes, not sacrifice weight, not sacrifice drama. And so if every movie going forward was made by the Russo brothers, I would be a happy camper. Maybe they'll at least take some lessons from it. I'm pessimistic enough to think that they won't, and that we'll be back to completely weightless Marvel movies for the most part. Well, maybe not. Some of them have been making turns, like Black Panther and Spider-Man. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about Thor, except you know, he made the joke about as Guardians of the Galaxy. Could that possibly be the name of the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and that Thor will join them with his abs back? Probably not. Maybe not. I don't know. I can flip a coin, you know. They probably won't be bold enough. They'll probably make some joke at the beginning about, yeah, I've been eating salads and doing sit-ups, you know, and then he'll have his physique back if he does another one of these. I don't know. I imagine audiences will want a third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They'll want to round out that franchise with a trilogy at least, and they're gonna have to at least explain where Thor went, because he ends in their care. That would be a really interesting dynamic. Yeah, okay, so now let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, I guess. That seems like a nice segue. Gamora. We've got an alternate timeline Gamora that has now joined Guardians of the Galaxy, and boy, I don't want to spoil anything for Farscape, but the parallels to Farscape continue. If you've seen all of Farscape, you know the comparison I'm making with this Gamora now being in the crew. And they could do some really interesting things dynamically there. I would think, Farscape with a similar scenario did some wonderful emotional things. But I wonder what's going to happen. I imagine they'll either hit the reset button and, enough time will have passed that they will have gotten to know each other, and maybe we'll see their romance bud again, in the next Guardians movie. I don't know. I don't know. I will say, though, that I think I'm going to buy both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think I'm going to go back and buy probably what I'm feeling right now. This might change after I've had some time away from thinking about this movie. But I think I'm going to go back and buy all the Marvel movies that I even thought, nah, I'm not going to buy them. I didn't like them that much, Yeah. I think I have just enough money that I've been saving up for a while that I have available that I could, buy some cheap copies of all these movies on Amazon, which I should probably do sooner rather than later, because I think a lot of people will probably come away from this movie suddenly more interested in past Marvel movies than they were when they went into it. Let's see, what else? I don't really have anything to say much about the Guardians as a whole. It was interesting that a lot of these characters, I wondered if this would be the case, really didn't, that got wiped out at the end of Infinity War, really didn't come back into the action until very late, relatively speaking, in this 3-hour, 1-minute movie. I think they probably did that to give us a chance to really be with these core characters that we're going to be saying goodbye to, So on to more core characters that we're saying goodbye to. Black Widow. Yeah, her exit. I had heard that there was a Black Widow movie in the works. Looks like it's going to be a prequel. I thought her exit was good, but I don't think I got to totally immerse myself and experience it, because I thought this is a death they could reverse. I was still thinking they could reverse Gamora's death, and it did start to settle in. I mean, like, the Red Skull did say this is not reversible. This can't be undone. And I felt at the time, I was like, yeah, I think they probably mean that. But then when they got all the stones together, I was like, well, they could always say, well, yeah, it can't be undone when you only have the one Soul Stone. But hey, if you got the Infinity Gauntlet, Speaking of which, I'm glad the Infinity Gauntlet exacted a toll on whoever snapped their fingers to use it. I think that you've got to do something like that. Otherwise, it's too powerful of a MacGuffin, I guess I'd have to. I felt it at the time that exit was good. I guess I'm not feeling it as richly now because they haven't invested as much in her character. I honestly don't need a Black Widow movie at this point, especially if it's going to be a prequel, and if it's going to be a sequel, then who's going to be Black Widow? But I don't know that I'm really interested in a prequel. They'd have to really make her younger. I think a prequel, the only Black Widow movie I'd want to see is one about her formative years, which they've already covered a little bit in previous movies through flashbacks. So, but I thought it was a good exit. And it was nice how they were fighting each other to see which one of them would be able to sacrifice their lives. But ultimately, I'm happy to see Barton, Hawkeye, be able to go back to his family. That was so moving. I guess we'll talk about Hawkeye now, too. That was so moving at the beginning of the movie to see him lose his family. They really took advantage of some great moving moments. I was so glad for that, throughout this movie. This is what I've wanted all the Marvel movies to kind of be like, And then I could have, then you'd say, well, Pater, where would they go from there? Well, I could have done with an even far heavier experience dramatically in this movie, But this is about the level of weight that I wish all superhero movies would have by default, and then ramp up the weight and drama from here, That's just my personal preferences. I get why most audiences wouldn't like that. I get why they'll probably go back to weightless Marvel movies for the most part going forward. But, maybe I'll be wrong. That'd be great. Anyway, so him getting to be with his family, even the moment where he had time traveling, where he almost got to see his kids again, these were great moments. And I think I felt them probably more because I'm a father. But, really, really good stuff. So that's Black Widow. Hulk. Okay. I don't like Smart Hulk. I didn't like them pulling the rug out from all of Hulk's potentially awesome moments in Ragnarok. They just made him just kind of like they pulled the carpet out from all the potentially great hero moments in Ragnarok. That was just a silly comedy movie, you know, and not my kind of thing. And yet I probably will buy it. We'll see. I might change all about how I'm feeling about this tomorrow, but yeah, I didn't feel like this was a payoff to what they were doing with the character in Infinity War. It was really strange. These movies were made back to back, and this did not feel like the logical follow-through. I mean, in the diner he talked about, I was always treating Hulk like this guy I was trying to keep tucked away or whatever. He was always at odds with him, and now I finally brought the two together. I'm at peace with myself or whatever the crap, And I don't like that. I don't like that, dang it. I think the Hulk is the most interesting when he is more like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which inspired him, where Mr. Hyde is a curse to Dr. Jekyll, and it reflects, the who we are as people, and how we have this darkness, this evil inside of us, and we don't like it. And we're trying to, how do I, the Hulk represents us when we fly off the handle. When we say things that we regret, when we lose control of ourselves and the worst parts of ourselves come out. That's what the Hulk, I think, should represent, and early on, I think, did represent. And so it's a shame that this, I don't know if this is inspired by some kind of a pop spirituality philosophy today, where we just need to be at peace with ourselves and we need to love ourselves and crap like that. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Whatever the case, I don't like it, because I like tormented heroes, and I think also from a moral philosophical standpoint, the Hulk can say much more valuable things about the human condition when he is a curse and not when Banner's at peace with himself, and I also don't think we got to see the Hulk action that I wanted to see. I was like, dang it, man, in these last movies, I mean, I'd be surprised if we got a Hulk movie out of Ruffalo after this. I would be surprised, They haven't given Hulk a franchise. They've just abandoned any hope, I guess, of doing a Hulk franchise, after the Ang Lee one, which wasn't part of the MCU, and the Edward Norton one, which was. But I guess they just said, it's not working, why bother? I don't know why. Sorry, I got a call and that cut off my video, so now I've put my phone on sleep mode so I can finish this hopefully without more interruptions. I don't know why we wouldn't get more Hulk movies, because I thought Ruffalo's Bruce Banner was great, and I would love to see more Hulk movies with him, but not this version of him where he's at peace with himself. And anyway, as far as like just straight up Hulk action, these Avengers movies are really unsatisfying, and I would think other Hulk fans would be pretty unsatisfied unless they really like Brainy Hulk. I would think Hulk fans would feel shortchanged. This should have been the movie where, if this is kind of like the goodbye for Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, this should have been the movie where Hulk cut loose the most and did the most and was at his strongest, at his biggest, at his craziest, ragiest best, And we didn't get that. So that was disappointing. I'm not saying we didn't get any good Hulk moments. Yeah, we got some. But dang, when they went traveling back in time, the original Avengers movie Hulk was just ripping up the place, and then we see Ruffalo's Hulk doing this half-hearted smashing, which, they played it for a joke, and that's a shame, because I think for a number of appearances now, jokes have been pulling the rug out from under what the Hulk could be when he's at his best, and that's a shame. All right, so that's it for that. Who do we have left? Is that all the core Avengers? It's all the ones that I can think of. Spider-Man got brought back in. I'm thinking to myself, boy, I'll bet you $1 million that everyone in Spider-Man's supporting cast all got wiped out by Thanos' snap of the fingers. Because the first question I asked myself when at the end when he saw his high school friend, they were back in high school, I was like, shouldn't his friend be like 5 years older and long since graduated from high school. So I'm guessing that conveniently, every character we've ever seen in the Spider-Man movies got wiped out by the Thanos snap, so that when we get back to the next Spider-Man movie, no one will have aged, no one will be talking about the fact that people were gone for 5 years. They'll just, they'll barely reference that, is my prediction. And great moment with Spider-Man and Iron Man, and that the kind of, finishing up and playing the playing off of the father-son dynamic that they had going on in Infinity War. That was really nice. Doctor Strange came back and did his Doctor Strangey thing, but not much else besides that. I liked that we got this interesting interaction with the Sorcerer Supreme, between Bruce Banner and the Sorcerer Supreme, and bringing back that actress, whose name escapes me at the moment. That was really cool to play into the lore, even though we didn't get to see Doctor Strange very much, in that part of the plot. I'm totally ready for another Doctor Strange movie. Now, have there been two or just the one? There's just been the one. That's right. His appearance in Infinity War just was great. He did a lot of cool stuff in that movie, so almost makes you feel like, there's been a second one. But, now to see Doctor Strange in a new movie where he's really fully come into his powers, like, yeah, baby, I'm ready. Let's do that, so we'll kind of see what happens there. Who else? There's so many characters. I'm trying to sort through which ones are supporting cast, because I'm kind of talking about supporting cast like War Machine when I talk about the core cast members as well. Scarlet Witch. I realized in the climax, dude, she's still angry about Vision's death because Vision isn't back. And I didn't see any indications that Vision was going to be brought back. In fact, speaking of, indications foreshadowing to future stuff, there was no post-credit scene, not even one at the very end. The only thing we heard was what sounded like a hammer striking an anvil. And I think that's supposed to symbolize something. I don't know if that's supposed to represent something related to Thor. I kind of doubt Thor, because he's got his hammer. Could it be something related to Iron Man? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the speculation is online about what that symbolically represents, or if it's even supposed to be a foreshadow. Maybe it's just a callback to Iron Man, Speaking of which, when Tony Stark snapped his fingers, right after saying, "I am Iron Man," there were just some great callbacks to the first Iron Man movie, Speaking of callbacks, I love the moment in the elevator with Captain America. That was a callback to Winter Soldier and how things hit the fan when he started that fight in the elevator. That was and it was the Russo brothers directing, so I'm sure that was on purpose. But I love the callback, and I almost expected a fight to break out. I was like, oh, it's another uncomfortable elevator scene between Captain America and a lot of the same guys that were in that scene. Yeah, great. So many great little callbacks. I couldn't possibly mention all of them, but it's that kind of thing that makes me want to revisit, especially the Marvel movies that I like and already have in my collection, but even makes me want to check out, again, the ones that were just kind of like, at the time. I think that, even for a movie like Thor Ragnarok, might turn into something that means something a little bit more to me, because him losing his brother and his mother was explored a bit in Infinity War. And so I think going back to some of these movies where they didn't give weight to some of these character moments that I thought they should have, the fact that they do kind of retroactively give weight to them in Infinity War and now Endgame makes me feel like, okay, I can watch this movie and I can appreciate that they're going to give weight to this at some point, and right now I can just pretend that it hasn't fully sunken in, But I can know now that they are going to, and so I can invest in caring about this character and their journey a little bit more. I can make it psychologically work in my head retroactively. Like, I think that the final scene in the original Captain America, the first Avenger, when he crashes and he's saying goodbye to Agent Carter, I think that's going to mean so much more to me now even than it did at the time, that I know where it ends up, that he does end up with quote-unquote Agent Carter at the end. You have to kind of Shrug, at least if you're me, you know. You have to kind of shrug at some of that stuff. What else? So yeah, Vision. What are they going to do with Vision? I really cared about that relationship with, I think Infinity War made me really start caring about that relationship, even though they didn't give as much screen time to it in like Civil War or Age of Ultron. They didn't develop it previous to now. They showed in the Russo's movies that there was some weight to this relationship. And so by the time Scarlet Witch was just going at Thanos, you know, out of revenge, I believed in that relationship more than I had. I wish that it didn't take that long, but I believed in it. And so now I would really like to see Vision resurrected in some way and Scarlet Witch be together again. I think that if they keep those characters in, you know, a future Avengers movie, that could help me continue to care, even when Iron Man and Black Widow and Hawkeye, well, Hawkeye, I suppose, could come back. I don't think he will. I think Hawkeye and Black Widow kind of have to go together. I think they're kind of like, they're built to go together, you know. Anyway, yeah, gosh, there's so many different things that I could say. There's so many different rabbit trails. It's hard to keep focused here. Who was I just talking about? Scarlet Witch and Vision. So yeah, I would love to see Vision come back. I think that's definitely a possibility, but it wasn't even hinted at, unless that's the hammer and anvil symbol, you know. So what else do we have? Who do we have left? Oh, Captain Marvel I haven't talked about. I was happy to see her full power levels explored, you know, in this movie. It doesn't change the fact that I really wish that they would have been explored in her own movie, you know, so that's still a bummer. And, gosh, I don't know if I liked her very much in this movie, and I'm trying to remember if it's because of how she was coming across to me in her own movie, or if it's related to any of the Brie Larson political drama. You know, it's unfortunate that sometimes when an actor gets really political in the public sphere, and I keep hearing about it over and over again, to the point where it becomes like a meme and it's totally associated with them, then it can really affect their character if they're playing like a character that would have anything in common with that. And she's playing this strong, kind of angry, kind of arrogant female character. And so when she's going to make kind of a judgmental or arrogant or whatever type comments in the real world, then it can kind of suck into how I see her, you know, in movies. You know, a different thing going on with like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise in the real world, you know, just really has bought into some things that, if I try to speak generously about it, are just harmful and totally off base. Totally, you know, what he's philosophically bought into in life. I am concerned for him, you know, psychologically, and but he doesn't play characters that remind me of that thing going on in his life, you know. So I think that might be the difference with Brie Larson. I don't know. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe, you know, it's just I didn't, you know, like her character and the lack of an arc for her character in Captain Marvel. Anyway, so yeah, but she did come and do her thing, and she got in lots of cool licks. I would have been willing to sacrifice her cool moments to give Hulk those same moments and make him the powerhouse that, just like at the end, went rage crazy and suddenly all the missiles were getting aimed at Hulk and he was wailing on Thanos. You know, I would have preferred that, but I get it. They're paving the way for her own franchise, and, you know, I get it. What else? Who else? Gosh, I don't want to have dead air here, and I don't want to edit this later on. That might be all I have to say for now. Crap. Maybe I'll get back in my car if I feel like I really have more that I need to say. I was going to go into my office and and just get in my car anyway after going to my office and looking at the cast list and realizing, oh, Black Panther! Yeah, so he didn't get near as much kind of cool moments in this movie as he did in the first one. You know, they really did divide it up. Like, the characters that shined in the first one, for the most part, vanished and were gone for a lot in the second half, you know. So, yeah. But, yeah, I don't feel like there's anything much to say about Black Panther. Going back to Thor, are they going to try and do a Valkyrie movie? I hope not. I really hope not. I don't know. I'm really curious what they're going to try to do as far as like the MCU going forward. That's why Comic-Con, when I expect they'll roll out a whole bunch of information about their just kind of like movie schedule now going forward. I think that's the logical time that will give people time to see this movie, so it won't be a spoiler for them to find out that, you know, there's no more Captain America movies, or there's going to be a Valkyrie movie, or, you know, whatever. But I hope there's not a Valkyrie movie. I just don't think we've seen anything in her character here that makes me think she's going to be an interesting character to watch. I still think that there's potential for a great Thor movie, but I don't think they know what to do with Thor. I honestly don't. I don't think we're going to get another single, like, Thor on his own movie. We might see him in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It felt in a lot of ways like they were sending these characters off into the sunset, even the ones that didn't die, you know. So, who else? Talked about Spider-Man, talked about... Oh, Ant-Man! This movie definitely made me want to go back and give the Ant-Man movies another shot, because I think that, I want to give them another shot. You know, there was that moment between Ant-Man and Wasp that made me feel like, oh, this is the culmination. They're like having a partnership here. They're having a partnership moment. And I feel like that's culminating something that was built on in previous movies that I've just forgotten about, because I found those movies pretty forgettable. But that's an example of me like feeling like, oh, I want to go back and watch those, because I feel like there's a moment they're having here between them that is a little minor payoff to things in the Ant-Man movies that, you know, I want to go back and revisit those, you know. So that was cool. What else? There's probably some character that I'm totally forgetting that I'm really going to regret. All right, I'm gonna cut it off here. I'll go look at the cast list, and if that makes me think of anything, I'll come back and record a little bit more in the car here. But that's it for now. Man, really love this movie. I'd love to get your spoilery comments in the spoiler, you know, all your thoughts in the comments below. Hopefully people will be smart enough to not read the comments for a video that is obviously about Endgame spoilers. But yeah, go ahead, cut loose. Let's talk about spoilers in the comments wherever you find this. I'll probably put it in a few different places. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much or even more if you're like a Marvel fan than I did. I imagine that Marvel fans that, unlike me, you know, have loved all of these movies, I really hope this was the great payoff for them that they wanted. I hope that the drama, the weightiness wasn't too weighty for them, because, man, I think there's a lot of value in having some weighty superhero movie experiences. And, yeah, that's all. I gotta finish this up and figure out what I'm gonna say in my review, which will probably be super, super short compared to this.